Hello and welcome to the training video on the momentum indicator. Now the momentum indicator is one of my favorites in that it kind of represents a different view on what we would normally see in many other indicators. It's also very straightforward, but it's also unique in some respects. The key behind what the momentum indicator really is in the name, really. A momentum indicator is showing the strength in the current direction. Now you could say that was true, say, with the RSI, in that it's just showing you the strength in the current trend. But what the RSI does is just basically showing you points of where it's likely to be called overbought, and we can expect to see an adjustment, and where it's oversold, where we can expect to see an adjustment in the opposite direction. Whereas the momentum doesn't really have points where it's either sort of overbought or oversold, because it's relative to the chart itself, and you can draw supports and resistances within that chart too. The important thing really to remember with the momentum, though, and it's relatively straightforward, is the momentum can be seen much like if you were to throw a ball. Say if we're looking at this point in here, where it hit support and then moved upwards and then hit resistance. What the momentum indicator shows through some very clever calculations is basically the speed of growth for that current trend. And you can then gauge if it's very strong, as we see here, then there's a likelihood that it's likely to continue and be quite bullish up until the resistance, which we sort of start to point here as it hits some consolidation. But what it's showing really, and the best way to describe it is through the use of an analogy, is if you grab a ball and throw it in the air, initially that momentum, that force that you're applying to it is quite aggressive and quite strong, but then it begins to slow down. So we have that initial force, and then it slows down, and then it falls again. And that's the momentum. Much like when you drop a ball, and we're dropping it here, initially the force is quite strong, and then it bounces and then starts to lose that momentum again. So it's kind of like that, it's a gravitational thing almost, the momentum indicator, and that it's showing you how strong in a particular direction that particular stock is moving. And you can apply different points of supports and resistance to it, but really, but not as, say, accurately as you would with the RSI, but it can kind of indicate sort of current trends in terms of where we're starting to see a particular weak point in terms of bullish moves and bearish moves. So we could say put a line there, and we can use that as a marker to suggest that perhaps once it reaches this point we can expect a bit of weakness sometimes, or if it breaks through we know that it can move above that a little bit more, and also that we know that it's not ever reached, certainly in the last 6 months, beyond that point. So if it breaks beyond that point, then we can expect possibly another further much stronger bullish move. So what you can do with the momentum indicator is not only obviously gauge the momentum, in other words the kind of gravitational force behind the trading and the movement of the trend that's happening and how fast it's moving, but you can also apply different supports and resistances, or different reference points more so, within the momentum indicator that allow you to see where weakness is likely to be before you actually get to see it in the chart. And this is kind of one of the unique things with the momentum indicator, is that you can apply these points of reference that we have here that allow us to gauge where we're likely to see a change in that chart before it's actually happened in the chart. And this allows us to not massively predict into the future, because obviously we can't do that, but it does show us points that are relative to that particular chart, and that's the thing you need to understand, is that it is relative to the chart. It will change for each chart, and therefore you have to plot and mark each of these similar points in different charts, and it becomes very powerful and allows you to have sort of a deeper insight into what's actually happening in a certain trend for that particular chart. And they're very easy to use. You just plot the lines like I have here at the points where we see that there's a correlation throughout the momentum being plotted, and that allows us to gauge that we get this strong move here, that we're starting to reach that point where we plotted before, and we could expect a bit of a move down from there. But if it breaks through there, then we know that the next line up is possibly the highest it's likely to go, and therefore we can expect a relaxing in that current growth period or that current trend. So as you can see, the momentum indicator is pretty powerful, and is certainly one of my favorites. For that very reason, it allows you to plot different points that you wouldn't necessarily have plotted in the chart itself. And it also stops the chart becoming overly complex with lines and God knows what else, and allows you to concentrate on what the chart is doing, but also to refer into what the momentum indicator is doing, and then apply that to where that point of reference is with the actual chart itself. So that's the momentum indicator.